I'm Doug from Global West. I'm going to take a minute here and talk to you about 1968 through 73 Mustang lower control arms. On the table here we've got our tubular arms that we build for it. But what I'd like to do is explain to you a little bit of the differences between the stock lower control arm and our tube. One of the issues with the stock lower control arm, and it's a stamped arm, is that the ball joint is part of the lower control arm. It's not replaced. So when the ball joint wears out, instead of just going down and buying a ball joint, you have to buy the entire control arm. Now the rubber bushing on this end, now we have something a little different which I'll explain shortly. There's a rubber bushing that attaches to the frame. Well, that has a tendency, as the suspension moves up and down and this arm's pivoting, that rubber bushing has a tendency to work the eccentric bolt that holds it to the frame. Now we talked about eccentric bolts and lockout kits in another video. And that's something that is real important that you need to be aware of if you have those particular year Mustangs. So this tubular control arm, what we've done in reference to improving the concept is right here, instead of putting a bushing, we've got a bearing system. Let me stabilize this here. And you see how this tilts and pivots, okay? Well, there's a reason why we want to do that. And this bearing also allows the arm to go up and down without any resistance. Well, because this bearing allows for that action, the load on the eccentric bolt is reduced. It doesn't have that twisting load constantly working on it as you drive the vehicle. This bearing is just allowing that thing to go up and down with no trouble whatsoever. And it's not trying to pivot that eccentric. The other thing is that because you have a strut rod, and that strut rod attaches to the top of the lower control arm and goes forward underneath the radiator there, it's called a brake correction strut rod. Because of that strut rod and the angle that it's operating on, this arm, not only as it goes straight up and down, also has got a slight tilt to it, okay? And again, the rubber bushing is not really big on that, where this bearing system will allow that without any problems whatsoever. Another feature that we have on this control arm is the ball joint. Now this is a threaded in style ball joint. It's replaceable. It can be fixed. If the ball joint wears out, you can get one anywhere in the country to replace the worn out ball joint. Now another thing we've done is we've changed the boot arrangement. A lot of the new ball joints coming on the market these days, the boots are not the best. They're not like the old days where a boot would last several years. This is a grease boot, dust boot, whatever you want to call it. So what we've gone ahead and done is in our particular control arms, in a lot of them, we've actually redesigned the boots and come up with a boot that will last a lot longer than the rubber units do. Plus it also has a cavity that also supports grease around the ball joint. A lot of the boots that are out nowadays that are replacement boots don't do that. So this is all standard with our control arms now. The spacer here is something you're going to need when you put it through your spindle. The stud's a little longer, so you put this on top. So it'll be next to the nut when you torque it down. This arm is designed as a heavy-duty control arm. It's designed to hold the load. Now what we do here is you'll notice there's 3 holes here versus the 2 that are normally in a stock control arm. That's because we've designed this control arm to accept our coilover system as well. Instead of having the spring go to the upper control arm in our coilovers, it goes to the lower control arm. So we had to design this control arm to hold the vehicle's weight, and that's what it does do. It can support that without any trouble whatsoever. So our design is going to be a little bit different than what you'd normally see. It can be used in both camps though. You can use it for a non-coilover system and of course the coilover system. So this particular part number is a TBF7. They're a direct replacement. There's one other feature, by the way, I was going to show you. This is where the sway bar attaches. On the factory ones, you've got a couple of concave washers that go. One goes on top and one goes on the bottom, and they're kind of a loose fit, and you got to put that together with the sway bar and link kit. Ours are all part of the control arm, so you eliminate that condition totally. 1968 through 73. TBF7, direct replacement, simple bolt-on, very strong, very durable, rebuildable. Ball joints are easily replaced. If a bearing wears out, it's replaced also. A nice upgrade for your Mustang.